getting started in just a couple minutes. Anwar, it looks like the waiting room is still on. Do you want it that way?
Yeah, no, I was gonna disable it right now, but
Okay.
there we go. There, it's disabled.
Okay, I'll let Laura in. I think we need some like a webinar theme song to play, like the 2 minutes before we get started. Yeah, sometimes I'm good about having music, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So folks who are here early, first of all, welcome. Thanks for being here. We'll get started in just a few more minutes. We'd like to warmly invite you to click on chat and feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're joining in from and how you're feeling today. We've got about 2 more minutes before we get started. It's good to see so many different regions. It looks like from California so far represented. Oh, from Missouri. Hi, Marcy. And Wisconsin. Hello, Eileen, sorry. Hey there, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hi, Jason. It's been a while since we've crossed paths. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, and we've got a pretty full agenda today, so I think we should go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome again. We're so happy that you've chosen to join us today for this session. I'm Michelle Pacansky-Brock. I am faculty mentor for CVC at One, and I'm joined by 4 panelists who I'm going to introduce in just a little bit. Before we get started, I have 2 quick housekeeping announcements. First of all, this session is being recorded, and the recording will be available in about a week on the CVC at One webinars page. So that takes care of that question. And the second thing I wanted to let you know is that we often have folks come to our webinars and ask how they can get verification of attendance. So I want to cover that. Anwar, my colleague, who's here today and will be helping me moderate the chat and some of the administrative stuff, is going to be dropping a link to an evaluation survey in the chat midway through and a couple of other times through the session today. That evaluation survey is important. It gives us really valuable feedback to help us improve, but it also gives you the option to get verification of attendance. So at the bottom of that form, you'll see an option to email your responses or send responses to yourself. Click that option, you'll enter your email, you'll get your responses, and you can use that to verify your attendance. So that's the way that works. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started then. Today's session is Authentic Presence and Digital Doubles, Navigating Synthetic Media in Equitable Online Teaching. And I am really excited to share this experience with you all. Um, we have a resource site, and I'm going to give you the link for that resource site, which you can also get to on your mobile device by scanning the QR code on your screen. That resource site has the slides that I'm going to show in just a moment. And it also has the names of our presenters. It has a little bit about the context about this webinar. Anwar, could you do me a favor and just be sure folks are muted as they join? We're getting a lot of hot mics. Thanks. And you're also going to find some examples of synthetic media on that site that we'll likely be referencing in our conversation today with the panelists, as well as some resources at the bottom. So feel free to check that out. And that's what I just told you, so I can skip past that slide. The agenda for today, within the next hour, first of all, I'm going to set a little bit of the context for this webinar because it is coming out of a very specific context, and it's going to make a lot more sense when I explain that in a moment. And then we're going to have a conversation with participants of a community practice that I'll introduce in the context. I also want to mention that we have 4 of our community practice participants here as panelists, and we have everyone else in the audience. So I invite those folks to chime in as we get into some of the conversations too.
Michelle, a few people are mentioning that the link isn't working.
Oh, let me just check that. It's working, I'm hearing. It's working for some folks, so I think that might be a local issue. Okay, well, I'm going to have to troubleshoot that later. Sorry, folks. And then at the end, we will be having time for questions. So if anything comes up on your end during our conversation, we invite you to share those questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those, and Anwar will help me loop back to those questions later if we don't get them woven into the dialogue. So today's webinar is about synthetic media, and I'm going to say conversation rather than webinar. Today's conversation is about synthetic media. So I just want to pause for a moment and explain what we mean by the term synthetic media. It's a term that nowadays is used to describe content, and it could be video, it could be audio, it could be image, or it could be text. So some kind of content that has been generated or modified through the use of AI. From my experiences, synthetic media usually is more referring to video and audio and image than text, but technically it covers all of those. And this content can include deep fakes, which is sometimes why people cringe a little bit when they hear the word synthetic media. Deep fakes, of course, are generally unconsensual synthetic media that portray individuals saying something or doing something that they did not do. And you don't have to click very far to see examples. If you have any social media accounts, go ahead and right now, and I bet you could find an example. Yes, so that is important to remember that that's part of our context here today. The other term that we're using in the title and throughout our session today is equitable online teaching. So I just want to be very clear about what we mean by that. When we use the phrase equitable online teaching, we're referring to intentionally designing and facilitating. So designing and facilitating is that teaching part, asynchronous learning environments that mitigate power inequities by supporting the varying social, emotional, and cognitive needs, abilities, and cultural knowledge of the diverse students served by community colleges. So our conversation is anchored in community colleges. That is who we are representing today, California Community Colleges. And community colleges are open access institution. It is our mission to serve everyone. So that's very important to frame this session today. So as some of you might know, the work that I have done for many years has been anchored in humanized online teaching. And that is very much framed around the importance of relationships. And I had become very intrigued by this kind of the surfacing of synthetic media, in particular digital doubles. And I started experimenting briefly with it. Gosh, I guess about a year ago when things, actually a year and a half ago when I was still using a still image of myself. And the kind of angst underneath my emotional existence started kind of bubbling up. And I thought, gosh, we have to talk about this. And so I was very happy to get the support of CVC and At One to offer a community of practice this spring around synthetic media. And we titled it the exact same title as this webinar. And I thought a good way to introduce the community of practice to you would be to play the actual promotional video. So I'm going to do that right now.
Hi there, folks. In this community of practice, we will explore the ethical dimensions of teaching online with synthetic media. Synthetic media includes video bots and voice clones that create replicas of humans, like the video you're watching right now. This video shows an AI video bot reciting a transcript that Michelle wrote but never actually spoke. What possibilities do these emerging technologies present for online teachers? And what barriers do they create for students, particularly students with marginalized identities? Together, we will critically examine this new frontier of teaching online while centering the critical role that our authentic human presence plays in developing trust with students. I'm looking forward to addressing these questions and more in community with you.
So that gives a little bit of context for how we were approaching the community of practice, inviting folks into this space to have a conversation and learn
Hi there, folks.
about what synthetic media is, and thinking about how it may influence students positively or negatively, as well as some other repercussions about it. And so the members that joined us are all listed on the screen here, and they are also present here today. So I'd like to welcome them. And four of the members, as I mentioned, are going to be panelists in the conversation today. We met this spring for a total of 6 times, 1.5 hours each time in Zoom. It was a fully online conversation. And between our meetings, we were basically challenged ourselves to experiment and kick the tires on a couple of different tools with synthetic media. The tools that we were focusing on were Hey Gen and Synthesia.
I'm in a webinar, but I can get.
And the participant breakdown or quick overview, we had representation from 12 California community colleges or districts, a balanced mix of teaching and support roles. So we had teaching faculty as well as instructional designers and people in more of an instructional support role. And the majority of our participants have 3+ years of online teaching experience and a strong foundation in online pedagogy. The participants, when asked about their familiarity with generative AI video tools, 57%, a little bit over half, said basic knowledge, and 43% said moderate. So a little bit of knowledge, but no one was using AI generated videos in their instruction prior to the community of practice. And in terms of their perceptions, everyone's perceptions coming in, there were opportunities that were noted. Folks seemed curious and rather, curiously optimistic about using synthetic media to more quickly update videos, which we all know are very time consuming, and also using them to support multiple languages. And that is certainly a feature that is intriguing about synthetic media. You can quickly transform a video in one language to a video in another language, and it actually syncs the lips to that language. And the learning experiences was another theme that surfaced, specifically using multiple modalities in our teaching and learning, and also using synthetic media for more diverse representation of who's doing the presenting. And I think that will likely come up in our panel today. This was a comment that represents an opportunity. I think of the magic school bus. Can I transport myself to the areas I'm teaching about when covering cells? Can I lecture about mitochondria as I'm standing next to one? I think that would be really cool. So that curiosity driving a lot of the opportunities. And then there were also concerns that were noted when we probed the participants coming into the COP. Those themes centered around authenticity and trust, and also technical and ethical themes. So in authenticity and trust, there were some uncertainties around how this might impact student-teacher relationships with the loss of the human touch. And also there were concerns about the balance between efficiency, right? That drive to be quick and fast, and the need for being authentic in our teaching and learning online. Within technical and ethical, there were privacy and data security concerns that also surfaced the concerns about deepfakes, and also the learning curve with yet another new technology, and the question about exacerbating equity gaps. And on the other end of the spectrum, this is a quote from one of our participants about concerns. They said, deepfakes, identity theft, misinformation, and disinformation, supporting the very tools that are arguably compromising the careers of artists and others, contributing to the downfall of humankind, particularly the already downtrodden. So our feelings, our perceptions kind of ran the gamut. And I also just want to say, coming into the COP, we were very focused. We were intentional about thinking about identity. We started our conversations with looking at the identity, the power wheel, the privilege wheel of the wheel of privilege and power that you see small in the lower right part of the screen, and reflecting on our own identities and having conversations about them, and keeping identity at the center of our conversations as we went through all of our sessions. So we were emphasizing that identity shapes how a person experiences the world, and we were all encouraged to reflect on our intersecting identities, and of course, as always, try to be critically aware of the privileges that we lean on as we enter our discussion space, as well as engage with synthetic media. So the identities shape everything. Identity is intersectional. Power is always at play. How a person feels influences their ability to achieve their full potential. And that's something that we stress a lot with regards to humanizing and online teaching and learning. And of course, we want to center all of this, as I said just a moment ago, to consider how synthetic media may mitigate or exacerbate power inequities.
Atlas.
And
Right.
how a person feels affects everything. I think fundamentally that is what it comes down to. I'm laughing because the little audios are throwing my brain off. So it's a perfect example that, that's affecting my ability to focus. So, Anwar, I'm just going to share. I think if you go into
I
participants.
clicked on under host, and I enabled that they're not allowed to unmute themselves, but I'm not sure.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
And just so you know, it's under participants and then more, and you select mute upon entry.
Okay, thank you.
I think that should take care of it. Yeah, so I love this slide because it's so simple, but it really underscores and reminds us that emotions are integrated with learning, and not just learning, they're integrated with everything that we do. And synthetic media certainly does make you feel a certain way, and that's something we'll talk about as well, keeping that in mind. And with that in mind, we started our COP with a community agreement that we all co-created, and these were just some of the things that came up in our community agreement: a drive to be inclusive and embrace diversity as an asset, to make space for our emotions, to be open to trying new things, being sure that it's a no judgment zone, not putting pressure on people to try a tool if they're not feeling comfortable doing so. That was completely fine. Acknowledging that disagreements are normal and will happen, and be kind and respectful to one another. So with that context, we are going to now turn over to our panelists. And they are each going to introduce themselves in just a moment, but just quickly, we have Katie Palacios from San Diego Mesa College, Nick Schuler from Ventura College, Jane Lescafe from Sierra College, and Sasha Stoich Ito Sasha Stojic-Ito from Los Angeles Community College District. And I'm so happy to have them join us today. And I want to give them just a big vote of a big thank you, because I know that all of you have so much happening, and yeah, including illnesses and conference and all kinds of stuff. Spring breaks are upon us. So first of all, hello. And I am going to get started by asking you to introduce yourself one by one and tell us a little bit about why you joined the COP. And as you do that, if you could choose one word to describe your experiences so far, because we do still have one more session, that would be great. So introduce yourself, tell us why you joined the COP, and in one word, describe your experiences so far. And Katie, I'm going to turn to you first.
Lucky me. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm Katie Palacios. I've been an instructional designer since 2007, and I joined this COP at San Diego Community College District. I'm at San Diego Mesa College, so shout out to all the Mesa folks in the room. I've been an instructional designer. I've been a faculty member. I'm a faculty instructional designer in our professional learning program right now. And I am a facilitator for the 10-10-10 at one course, the communication that matters. And I joined the COP because I started getting questions from the faculty who I support at Mesa about synthetic media. Like, these tools started coming up. Hey, have you seen this? I love video and I love humanizing with video. And so faculty started asking me these questions, and I was kind of torn about I didn't have a real good sense of how I felt about it. And so I wanted to join the COP to just kind of dig into this more. And so I jumped at the chance.
Thank you. Thanks for that intro. And I'm just going to expand on
my one word.
Oh yeah, your one word.
Sorry. My one word is fun. It's been fun to play with the tools in a safe, supportive space. So that's my word.
Great. Thank you. And how about we go to Jane and then Sasha and then Nick?
Hey everyone. Thanks again, Michelle, for inviting me in this space and just kind of sharing my experiences. So I'm Jane Layscafe. I am a faculty member in the Department of Ethnic Studies at Sierra College. In terms of why I took a part in this community of praxis is because I just don't want to be left behind in this AI revolution, to be honest. And I know that we're on the cusp of a really big paradigm shift in terms of how we teach because of all the upcoming technology. And I'm also on the AI task force through the Senate. And I'm just really fascinated by everything that's kind of coming out. And I just actually returned from an AI conference in Puerto Rico, which was very empowering, and just kind of hearing about what the unintended consequences are of AI and discussions about bias. I think it's really important to diversify that space in terms of who is actually designing these AI applications. So I'm excited to be here. The one word that I would use to describe my experience so far is frisson, which is that liminal space between excitement and fear, kind of like being on a roller coaster. There's definitely a lot of excitement, but also some apprehension on what's to come, and just kind of proceeding with caution and eyes wide open.
Jane, say that word again.
Frisson.
I don't know that word.
Frisson.
Good. I don't know that word. That's fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and we're also so glad that you're in this space with us. So thanks for that. Sasha.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, for the invite. My name is Sasha Stojic-Ito, and I work as a faculty, but also as a multimedia specialist. My strong focus is on instructional design and digital accessibility. So I spend a lot of time wondering, how can technology be more inclusive? How can we remove barriers? And how can we push the education forward? I wanted to join this community of practice because I am curious, how can this fit in academia setting from the perspective of accessibility and usability. One word that describes this experience would be curiosity. Thank you.
Like it. And as you're hearing, everybody is bringing very different perspectives into this space. So it's really been an enriching experience to get so many different perspectives to learn from together, which is so great about COPs. Hi, Nick. How you doing today?
Hi everyone. I'm Nick Schuler. I teach biology at Ventura College. I'm usually an earlier adopter of technology, so I kind of jumped on the AI train as soon as I saw students using it. And I saw this sort of advertised to me through a fellow faculty member who couldn't do it and jumped on the opportunity and basically because I could not see a way that it would be used in teaching. So I was just really curious about how it was going to be used and also scared of how it's going to be used. So I wanted to be kind of what all the other panelists have said, wanting to figure out how to use it or not use it or what we should do with it. And I came out of this experience. I think my one word would be iffy. I'm still not sure about it. So
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's a good introduction. I think I would say that I feel like it's been jarring. I've been just kind of moving around with my perceptions and I, see opportunities. I'm in that same space. I'm just kind of unsettled about stuff. So, but it's also been fun. So I appreciate what Katie said. Yeah, okay. So thanks for that introduction. And the next question I've got for you has to do with this idea of identity. So we talked a little bit about your professional roles, but is there anything else that you'd like to share, reflect on about, how your identity is influencing your engagement with synthetic media as we've been going through our COP? I'm going to open it up to whoever wants to take that.
Yeah, I'll jump on it. So as someone who works extensively in accessibility, specifically in course design and building trainings and auditing and remediating, you name it, I like to look at things from the lens of solver one, but extend to many. So it's always that proactive attitude of how can we ensure that we are including everyone? So I always ask a question, and it's also my bilingual nature, being raised in Europe, always asking question, and often in both languages. So I always come from the perspective of how can we reduce those barriers, specifically for multilingual learners, but also how can we serve students with disabilities, faculty that has limited time, and then ensuring that that identity representation matters deeply for everyone.
I would just, oops, sorry. I'll just add my perspective from both a personal point of view as well as a professional point of view. So from a personal point of view, the reason why I'm really interested is just because I see it as a time-saving tool, because I don't know how many of you create these lectures, and the perfectionism in me will constantly re-record videos. So I'm imagining if I just type things in, it would save me a lot of time. But also from a professional perspective, I think that my ethnic studies background really shapes the way that I digest and process all the information. It becomes a little bit of a filter. So I'm always talking about equity and bias and how these new forms of technology will ultimately affect students, especially from marginalized backgrounds, because some people might not be thinking about that. They might be so excited about the technology, but don't realize that some of the students and maybe even some of the staff and educators might be left behind in this journey.
Two
Well
things,
said. Yeah.
two things come to mind for me on this one. One is I recognize my privilege in this space as a white, digitally literate, native English speaker. So I know that influences how I'm interacting with the technology. I also come with, you know, a very strong video background and using these tools, but not from a production perfection perspective, really a imperfect is perfect. That's always been my motto when it comes to these videos. So I've always enjoyed the creation space of creating videos. And I have learned that more, I think, through the COP, because I feel like that part that I like is maybe not so much there using these tools. So I've found that to be interesting. Go ahead, Nick.
And I sort of came at this, I teach biology for non-majors, and I mean, students aren't going to walk away from a class like that knowing the ins and outs of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So my perspective in this whole thing and my teaching in general is how do they navigate this growing amount of information that's going out there and is being unchecked. And I think in all of our classes, we try to teach them critical thinking skills. And so we have these videos. I see them on Instagram all the time of like, you know, lion cubs jumping on their moms. And I'm like, that does not look real. And so you find out that it's AI generated. So it's already out there and they're looking at these videos and how do we incorporate that stuff into our teaching to let them know that this stuff is being made up. I don't know how many people send me those types of videos. Well, this is so cool. I'm like, that's not real. And so getting an idea of what's going on with this AI generated videos was important to me and trying to help my students navigate that too.
Well, speaking about what's real and what's not real, each of you created a digital double using a tool called Heygen, which is one of Heygen, which is one of the tools that we've been experimenting with. So let's get this out of the way right now, because it's a creepy topic to consider. And all of us had some really interesting reactions to watching our digital double. And as we watched it, we were introduced to the term uncanny valley, right? That was one of the concepts that we talked through. And for those of you not familiar with that word, that is a term that was popularized in the 1970s by a Japanese roboticist named Masahiro Mori. And it is that sensation that a human feels when they're interacting with something that starts to look and feel a little too human, but they know isn't human. It's in that space. And it's called a valley because we're generally, we have a comfort level and then it drops. And so who wants to share a little bit about how it felt to be in an uncanny valley watching your digital double and what you took away from it?
Mine was so weird. Mine, I mean, obviously I was super creeped out by mine. To me, it didn't seem like me at all. And I showed coworkers and they were like, what on earth did you do? Like, what is that? So yeah, I showed my kids and they were like, why are you talking like a robot? You know, it was funny. They, yeah, you can show mine. If now's the time to show
Hi
it.
there, it's me, Katie. Well, kinda. This is Katie's digital double. Katie loves using videos to communicate with you all, but there are times throughout the semester when she's unable to record. This usually happens when Katie is on the go with her kids or busy in meetings at work. In those instances, you may get a video from me, her digital double, instead.
Okay, I'm just going to play a clip.
The end is really funny. I can't remember what I said at the end. Just play the
Do you want me to go to the end?
Just go to the end. It's like how I sign off.
Speaking the words to you, but every once in a while, it'll be me. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Yeah. So the funny thing is I showed my mom and she didn't pick up on it at all. I thought that was really weird. My kids were like, it's an AI video, Grandma. But anyway, yeah, I was creeped out by it.
Your own mom.
Yeah.
Okay,
That might be a digital literacy thing with my mom,
Yeah.
with the video stuff. I'm not sure.
Of course, right. Yeah. I've known you for a very long time, Katie, and I had a really hard time watching that video because I know how unlike you it is. And it's those verbal and nonverbal cues, right? They're just not right. So thanks for sharing and thanks for letting us check out your digital double.
Absolutely.
Who else would like to share a little bit?
Just wanted to share my experience in terms of how fearful I was of the deep fake. So that connection between the deeper the fake, the more uncanny the valley. And I actually took a lot more comfort in terms of what I introduced during our community practice, the idea of shallow fake, that there's some comfort in knowing that it's obviously not real. So there was a video I created with just the photo of myself. I didn't train it. It's just the voice that was automatically generated from Hey Jen. So it's not my voice. And they even inserted a hand gesture. There was no hand in my photo. That for some reason I felt more comfortable with that shallow fake versus the deep fake. And I guess that's the video.
Yeah, here, I'll play it real quick.
Era of video creation with Hey Jen. Simply type your script to get started. Welcome to the new era of video creation with Hey Jen.
So it put the hand in there?
Yeah, that was not my hand. And I didn't ask it to put my hand in there, but for some reason, and I don't know, it was just a very natural reaction for me. And it was the same example that I brought up during our conversations about, like, if you were to insert a cartoon version of myself, for some reason that seems less of discomfort for me, because it's not like I'm trying to trick the students.
Yeah, and as I'm listening to you, Jane, it's just reminding me of how much we were. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but how much of me and how much I picked up on many of us expressed this kind of, like moral and ethical navigation, just about like where are the boundaries of what I'm okay with. And that's a really interesting part of this conversation. And where were we here? So we were talking about our digital doubles and how we were navigating a lot of ethical and kind of moral feelings, right? The way you feel affects everything. That's what my brain keeps telling me right now. And does anyone else have anything to share about their digital double? Trying really hard to put that aside without acknowledging if anybody needs to go and clear your mind, I totally understand. But yeah, does anyone else have anything to share about that topic? How it felt, what your takeaways were? Sasha?
I think I approached this one from a slightly different perspective. The current instruction is very sort of static, torso up, no gestures, speaking to the camera, and I absolutely did everything opposite. I was dancing in front of the camera and moving around, and the culture I'm coming from, we speak with our hands and with our bodies. So I really truly wanted to see, would AI pick up on that? You can play a bit, Michelle.
Okay.
Hi, I am Sashka, Sasha's digital double. We are embarking on this synthetic media journey in hopes that I could be Sasha's double in all things exercise demo, and that what she cannot, I am able to show you. The goal of this first video was to showcase if we're able to record video catching the full body, the movement, gestures and all. Also, unlike Sasha, I don't sweat, I don't forget my left from my right, and my form is literally perfect because it was programmed that way. You're welcome. In the future, you might see me leading warm-ups, demonstrating stretches, or showing off moves Sasha calls gentle mobility, but I call digital gymnastics. And if you ever catch me glitching, no you didn't. Just blink and refresh your browser. Now, while Sasha needs sleep, coffee, and an occasional pep talk, I run 24/7 on pixels and pure confidence. No rest days in the metaverse, baby. Sure, I may be synthetic, but I'm 100% committed to making sure your form is correct, your spine is aligned, and your eyebrows. Slightly impressed. Think of me as Sasha's stand-in with no injuries, no bad hair days, and no risk of stepping on a Lego mid-stretch. This is part one of the grand experiment.
Okay. Are you good with me stopping there?
Yes, yes. So I wanted to see, would my digital double be able to absorb my moves and how would that render? So I think it truly got everything to the T in terms of the way I moved, the gestures, the hands, voice, not so much. But I experimented with an idea of using my digital double in my courses where it can demonstrate exercise for me if I'm not capable, or if I can make specific levels of accommodation and showing things in many different ways, and then also taking that and CCing it in a different language and so on. So I was so excited the way it turned out. I showed it to my partner. He was creeped out. But I see a lot of opportunities where I would be able to use this in hopes that they would develop more gestures, more body movement, because after a while it goes on a loop. Even though I submitted 2-3 minute videos to see how many movements it can absorb. So after a while, it just keeps going. But it was fun to do this.
I'm really glad that you did that. And that was another fun part, or I should say interesting part of the COP, was to see the different ways that folks were kicking the tires on the tools and saying, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And I just want to acknowledge there's a question that came up in the chat from Amber. Can you ask the double to be more perky or move your hands more? And so we're using the free version, first of all, and that was kind of a condition of the COP because we didn't have funding to purchase upgraded accounts. And so you are limited with regards to what you can do. And what you do is you upload like I think it says 2.5 to 3 minute video. They recommend a 3 minute video of yourself talking in a setting, wearing whatever you want. And that video is what the AI grabs and uses to train itself and create the digital avatar, and the digital double. And so the gestures that you use in the training video, right, get kind of worked into that algorithm and sometimes get applied in proper context and sometimes they look really weird. But in the free version, you can change, I think you can change the way you talk. Like you can add like curious or excited, like, which I've never actually played with. And you can also give your voice, your voice clone and accent. And Jane, maybe you want to talk about that in a minute. But with a free account, you can't actually, say, be more perky. There are different options, different features baked into the more premium accounts, but we didn't get our arms around those, so can't speak to them too much. Nick, do you want to say anything about your experience?
Sure. Yeah. I had I think I jumped on it immediately after we finished and you introduced it to us, and went out and did a training video in the yard. And my mind was always going with how could these videos be used for our students, and I think about how they like content delivered in different ways. And some of my online classes, they'll do some reading here and then they'll watch a video of me, and then they'll listen to something. Maybe they'll put something into Notebook LM and get a podcast of it. So my idea here was how could they get this delivered in their preferred format, the content, and maybe this is some tool that they could do. So I went into it thinking I was going to record a video and then translate the transcript into Spanish and have it in English and Spanish. And so that's sort of what I did. As soon as I did it, I posted both on my social media, and then I showed it to my students. People were kind of blown away by it and kind of freaked out. And I saw some of my friends doing their own versions of it too. So I don't know. I'm still not sure how to use it, but it was kind of fun to make the videos and explore that in the direction. We only used HeyGen because it was the only one that allowed you to make videos for free. We played around with other ones that use avatars that are not yourself.
Yeah, so HeyGen is the only one that allows you to make a digital double of yourself for free, right? And Synthesia is the other one that we played with. And Synthesia, you can create, just as you said, the digital avatars, but not of yourself with the free account. And there are some really interesting other features, but I want to loop back a little bit to this, the idea of using the multiple languages and kind of the notion of authenticity and navigating how you feel about like adding this different identity to a video that looks like you. Does anyone, Jane, do you want to jump in there? I see your head nodding.
Well, it's actually the response I was going to have to the next question about the most memorable moment that I had in the community of practice so far. It's something that I didn't consider until I actually experienced myself. And that's why it's so important to have diverse voices and backgrounds into this space. But the most memorable moment was when I was still messing around with the HeyGen free version, and I was having some technical issues. So I ended up just doing an audio file training. And I ended up letting all my friends and family hear that particular audio file. And pretty much across the board, there was a consensus of like, that really sounds like you, but not you, because you sound white in that particular iteration of myself. And it was so fascinating because it, like, that feeling, that uncanny feeling, it's me but not me. And it just got my mind rolling in terms of what does sounding white even mean, right? It does American mean white, and it brought up things about linguistic justice and potential accent discrimination, especially with training. And I remember during my dissertation years ago when I was using the Dragon program to transcribe a lot of my interviews, my in-depth interviews, and they wouldn't recognize a lot of the words that I was saying or would be mistranscribed. But obviously, years later, it's improved tremendously in terms of, and I didn't think I would have an accent, right? But it was just fascinating to kind of have that experience. And I don't know if, Michelle, you wanted to play the audio file, and then I'll explain what I ended up doing after that in terms of the accents.
Yeah, let me know what one you want me to play. The first one, or
the audio file at the very top. Do you see the far left? It says, this is an audio file of Jane's.
Oh, this one. Yes. One. Okay, that one.
So
here we go.
The concept of race is often taken for granted, yet it is primarily a social construction rather than a biological fact. At its core, the social construction of race refers to how societal norms, historical contexts, and social interactions shape our understanding of race. Unlike physical traits like skin color, which are genetically determined, race is an idea that has evolved and changed over time, influenced by cultural, political, and economic factors.
So it's interesting to hear that, because to me, it lands as, it sounds like me, but not me. And then people have different experiences with it, where Michelle, you said that you just sound very stern. that particular, which I don't feel like I'm a stern educator, so I don't know how it created that output. I don't know if it was the training that maybe I was speaking too quickly. And these are things, and I did come about realizing like your tone in your training ultimately shapes the output, right? When I tried Synthesia, they gave me a very positive script to train, and I found myself being very positive in terms of how I actually read the script.
Oh, you mean the content?
Yes, the content, right?
Oh,
like how much the script actually shapes how you portray yourself, both verbally as well as just in terms of your body language. So I think that's something to consider as well. And then I ended up doing just the month subscription, because after having this experience, I wanted to kind of see what the accents would be like. And so that's when I paid for it, I was able to kind of create very short, like 6-minute clips of the exact same text, because I wanted it to be consistent across all recordings. And all I did was change the accent output. So I have my original authentic voice, and then I selected American English and then also Australian English to see how much they would shift how I sounded. And that's in the video clip. So I don't know if you wanted to play a couple of those.
Sure. Let's see. Which one do you want me to play?
Yeah, just the authentic first, and then just go down the line. It's just 6 seconds.
Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started. Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started.
Which sends a message that I don't have an American accent, right? When I have that experience. And then I just tried Australian because just to give you a little bit of background, I'm a daughter of Vietnamese refugees, and we almost ended up in Australia instead of the US after we got sponsored. So I was curious to just see what I would sound like if I ended up growing up in Australia.
Welcome to the new era of video creation with HeyGen. Simply type your script to get started.
Yeah, so it was fascinating for me in terms of my personal experience. I tried some other accents. I think I tried Indian as well as Nigerian just to kind of see the output. But it was just a very enlightening experience for me. And it makes me kind of push back on the design team and just to always get them to recognize the diversity in our population and the nuances and just to be very sensitive in the creation of a lot of these AI applications.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna loop back to the next question in just a second, but this kind of ties in. I think we might run out of time. And folks, I understand that the chat is disabled, and while that really pains me to not have interaction coming in, I'm really thinking that's probably the best case right now because I don't know what else might happen if we loosen up security right now. So many apologies. If you want to take a look at this video here, it's interesting for a couple of reasons. This video I created using HeyGen, but it's a video that summarizes a research article, and the full research article is at the bottom. It's this one right here. Is deepfake diversity real? Analyzing the diversity of deepfake avatars. And it goes on to point out all kinds of gaps in terms of the representation, right? So like older people are not represented generally, and non-binary gender not represented, right? Lots of intersecting identities get left out, but it's really an interesting article. And so we were playing around a little bit, and in HeyGen, let me back up. I took the article, which is shared with a Creative Commons license, and I put it into Claude, and I generated a summary of the article, so a script, and I said, write it in a script for community college educators drawing out, looking at the findings through a critical lens. So it wrote a script, and then I took the script and the article, I'm sorry, I took the article and I put the article into Gamma and generated slides. And then I took the slides and downloaded them and put the slides into HeyGen with the script and generated a video. And it has my digital avatar at the beginning introducing it, and then it kind of summarizes the article. And then at the end, folks here on the panel and in the audience in the COP, I edited it since you saw it last time. But at the end, it has an actual authentic video of me. So it kind of gives a little bit of comparison of different ways to use the comparison of the digital double and actually me, but it also is this really interesting use of a mashup of different types of AI. And that goes back to, I think, Katie or someone was mentioning the digital literacies that are embedded within all of this creation, which is interesting. And some folks have that and some folks don't. So I just wanted to point that out. We're probably not going to have time to share that because I certainly want to ask a couple more questions. But it is on the site. I would like to hear from a couple others of you, or the rest of you, hopefully, if we can get to everyone, about what a memory is that stands out to you from the COP. I'm going to give you a choice. You can share that, or you can share maybe an opportunity or a concern. So let us know what you're responding to, and then go ahead and share an opportunity, concern, or one of your favorite moments, which might be an opportunity or a concern. I think we're waiting to hear from Katie or Sasha or Nick.
Sure, I can go. I think so. I could not see a way that this would be used in our teaching. I just didn't think students wanted to see fake videos of us, even if we were upfront about using it or anything like that. But we spent some time doing Leon Furs. Is that how you say his last name? We did his course that's completely AI generated, including the videos. And I going through that course, I realized that it didn't bother me in the least bit that it was AI generated because he was upfront about it. And I thought I learned in that. And so that's what sort of got me shifting my way of thinking around synthetic media in teaching, in that it can be used as long as you're transparent about using it, and that students want it. And that's got me thinking what I brought up earlier, that this is a tool that students could use to learn. So they could request to get a video of your transcript instead of having to read it or something along those lines. Because I know they all have preferences in the way they learn. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that Leon First course is also linked on our Google site at the bottom if anyone wants to take a look at that. And Nick, I remember that conversation because that was actually what I would have shared as being memorable too, because, and it was just listening to how differently everybody responded. You know, like I remember Audrey were saying I couldn't focus on anything but like him, like not being real. And so it's very interesting to hear those different reactions. Katie or Sasha?
I'll go with the opportunity and concern. Opportunity would be scale and access. So ensuring that there is a bandwidth for those who have currently, like, let's say, limited opportunities, students with disabilities. This can be definitely a game changer if we design it right. And if we design it right, it can be very flexible and very, very inclusive. But concern is also accessibility and then ethical consideration that can easily be misused.
Thank you for raising those.
For me, I think, I don't know what, I think maybe it's a concern, but it's kind of more like the context that we're using these videos in our online course. Like, I really had to think about the intention of the videos that I'm, like, why I decide to do a video. And I was actually teaching a 10-10-10 section during, it overlapped like by a week or a couple of weeks. And I had a video that I had already created my avatar, and I was going to then write a quick script for our week 4 closing video or something. I don't remember what one it was, but I didn't have time to record a video, which I usually do walking around campus, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, well, I could just do it, try my HeyGen. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I think because those, for me, the announcements are a time to connect with my students in time and space. Like, I feel like that's like them, it's a chance for them to see my authentic, like where I am, who I am, what I'm doing at that moment in San Diego. I mean, I feel like there's a real connection there. Like, oh, I get to see my teacher who's at, you know, the basketball game watching our kids. Like, I don't know. And it's not to say that you can't do some of that with the HeyGen videos, but I think for me, it was like the context of if I were to use these videos, it would be for, you know, module kickoff videos, or I really think intentionally about them feeling more like content videos instead of connection videos. If it's a video that the intent is to connect, then I would stick with my real imperfect self. So I feel like there's the opportunity of really identifying the goal of the video and the why behind the videos that you're recording.
I am right there with you, Katie. That is definitely one of my really valuable takeaways, lots of them, but AI, synthetic media can deliver content, right? But developing rapport, connection, trust, which is all part of motivating a student or any human for that matter, you know, that's our job. That's our human job. And I want to recommend a book to everyone before we wrap up. It's called The Last Human Job. And unfortunately, once again, my brain is forgetting the author's name. The Last Human Job, but she talks about connective labor, which is that interaction, that relationship component between teacher and a student, or a nurse and a patient. There's certain jobs that have that connective labor. And she lays out an argument about how connective labor is becoming a commodity, it's becoming a luxury, and that those who don't have financial resources are less likely to get their connective labor from humans in the future and more likely to receive it from bots. And I just want to end on, as community college educators, I don't care what your role is, we serve the most diverse students than any other institution, and we have to be thinking about that really seriously. And for institutional leaders, start celebrating and recognizing and valuing more that connective labor in teaching and learning. We operate in these systems of efficiency that really undermines that value. And I think that's a shift that has to happen moving forward. I would like to answer Fred's question verbally. So this is in the archive. Fred, in the Q&A, you asked, can you speak in English and then switch to another language in the same video? Absolutely. Right there in the HeyGen interface, when you click on create video, it'll say, do you want to make an avatar video or translate a video? And you can actually upload any video and translate it into, I think it's 30 different languages with the free account. I may have that number wrong. But that's definitely there. And I do not, you've asked if Vietnamese is one of those languages, and I do not recall. Nick says he believes so. So you have to check that out on your own. Thank you, everyone. And folks in the audience, again, apologies for our very rude interruption. And I would like to encourage you, please, to complete the evaluation survey. And again, if you need that verification of employment, attendance, not employment. At the bottom of the evaluation form, select send me my results and use your email as your verification of attendance. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today, Jane and Katie and Sasha and Nick. I value your time and all that everybody in the COP has brought into the space, and everybody who attended today. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.